Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor, and this is Cozy Corner. Please make sure you follow, like, and subscribe for more content every Wednesday. So, of course, I came out with my story about being a widow, some of the things that I have experienced with that. And one of the things I can say is when you're at your most vulnerable, that's when people tend to play on your vulnerability. So I've tried to, and this happened on 2 occasions. So when I left my ex and I did my Sweet Oblivion series, for those of you that have not checked it out, go check it out. But when I left my ex and I went through the healing phase, I was starting to attract certain types of guys that still kind of mimic a lot of the triggers, well, not necessarily triggers, but traumas that I was still dealing with. So there was this one guy I tried to talk to, and he had a child and everything, and he moved from another state to be closer to me after I told him not to do that, first of all. And in dating him, I started to realize he had a lot of insecurities and things that he didn't like about himself. And so he started to project a lot of that on me. And it didn't really end well. And then it got to the point where he was very rude and disrespectful. And I noticed some men don't take rejection well. So they lash out. So then I stopped talking to him. And then there was this other guy that I tried to talk to. And it just seemed like everybody just wanted the same thing. And I don't understand this generation of we have to have sex type thing. That's just not me. It's not me. I have been on this journey of celibacy. And I think the problem is men are so used to women just giving up freely that when a woman has boundaries, it's kind of like it makes them uncomfortable and they don't know how to take that. So I tried to talk to this other guy and I went through these whole flood of different men at that time, just dating, nothing sexual. And one guy, I found out he was married. He lied and made it seem like he was living by himself. And I ended up finding out on social media. Then there was this other guy. He was married also. And I started to be more attentive and try into details and trying to figure out the background of these men because they'll lie. They'll lie and say, oh, I'm not with this person anymore. I'm single and all these different things. Meanwhile, they're taking pictures with their wives or taking pictures with their girlfriends or fiance. And it's a totally different story. It was this one guy where, not really proud of it, but it had to happen. There was this one guy that I was talking to and I found out he was engaged. And actually I found out he was engaged when his fiance reached out to me and was asking me a question. And I'm like, yeah, we talked to the same person. Now, granted, she lived in a different state. She was originally from where we were from and he stayed here most of the time. And he would always tell her he was traveling for work. So I ended up calling her. I said, hey, yeah, girl, call me. And so she was trying to get all the details and we spoke. And it was great to have someone that was very mature. Of course, she was heartbroken. And I feel so bad for her because for me, it wasn't really serious. Me and this guy was not serious at all. But I do not like when women get messed over and men take advantage of women. So we made this whole plan of setting him up. And so one day I was like, hey, yeah, let's go for a ride. So he gets in my car and we driving and I'm talking to him, but he don't know she's on the car screen listening to everything that we're saying. And I said, yeah, so I didn't know you had a fiance. He was like, I don't have a fiance. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, I'm not with nobody. You're the only person I'm talking to. And keep in mind, me and her had already made arrangements that she don't say absolutely nothing. She just listen. And then I'll cue her in to come in and speak. And he kept going on and on about how they were not together and this, that, and the third. He didn't even know who she was, quote unquote. So then she gets on and she was like, oh, so you don't know who I am? And like, he completely froze. And he was like, what y'all got going on? What y'all got going on? Y'all, blah, blah, blah. Like, he went through this whole thing. So he had me pull over the car. And he got out. And he walked the rest of the way. And I was just like, hey, that's what you get. I said, it's not cool to mess over women. You know, she genuinely thought that you was for her. Y'all made plans of getting married. She had a ring on and everything. And you lied to her. That's not fair. And I don't like that. So, yes. And I make it perfectly known. Please don't lie to me when it comes to if you're married, or because I'm going to reach out to your wife or your spouse and let them know, because I don't play those type of games. Because if it was me, I would want the same thing. I would want somebody to speak up and say, hey, this is not right. I'm going to reach out to whoever you're with because this is not okay. So then after that, you know, I kind of took a break. I was like, you know what? These men are really getting on my nerves. So I'm just going to take a break and just focus on myself, which I did. And at that time, I had this routine of like self-care, self-love, and I was taking myself out on dates, and I was hanging out with friends, and, you know, reading my scriptures and trying to stay prayed up and things like that. That's when my husband came into my life, and that was the best time. And how we met is we were friends in high school. My 12th grade year, we were friends. And he ended up coming to my trunk party. And it's interesting because at that time he had a girlfriend, and I had a boyfriend at the time. So we didn't really look too much into it, but he always told me, I always knew you was going to be my wife. So I was like, okay. So he reached out to me on Facebook, and we started talking, we started dating, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And then we got married not too soon after. We didn't have any problems like most people have during the dating phase. Everything was very smooth. He was traveling like 3.5 hours to come see me, and every other weekend, we had opposite shifts. He worked at night, I worked during the day. So we didn't really have much time to really get to know each other and really communicate. But it just flowed so easily. And then from time to time, I would go visit him. So we got married, and we contemplated because I wanted to go to the courthouse, and he wanted a wedding. And I'm like, why would we spend all this money on a wedding when we can go to the courthouse? And so we went through the process of having a wedding, and it was beautiful. It wasn't really stressful. I think the only thing that was stressful about the wedding was trying to get different vendors and getting them approved through the hotel we was going through at the time for our wedding. Outside of that, it was beautiful. And then after that, we got married and we moved in together, and we had our honeymoon. We went to Vegas, which was actually a duo, and he tried to surprise me, but he ended up spilling the beans. He couldn't hold it in. So we went to Vegas. He knew that was a place I always wanted to go. So he surprised me with a birthday/honeymoon trip. We spent the whole week in Vegas. It was so much fun. So much fun. We got back, and then life was going fine. And then February, that's when he passed away. And that was a very difficult time for me, of course. And I'm still going through that grieving process currently. So after that, of course, I kind of touched on this in my last video, where men tend to know what you had with your husband or know what type of woman that you are, and they tend to prey on that. I had several guys that tried to, you know, make advances as far as like marriage and let's get married, let's do all these different things. And then I had guys that wasn't even interested in trying to get to know me. It was just like, hey, let's just go do this thing. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I'm not ready for that either. So that was that thing. And I'm realizing that after this last guy that I was talking to, that for me, I know what type of woman I am. I know what I bring to the table. I know what is within me, right? The problem is a lot of men have not, that I've come in contact with, have not dealt with a lot of their traumas. And so they try to project a lot of the traumas on you, not knowing that um, there's is really exposing their wounds, right? And a lot of them don't take it well. I've dealt with a lot of narcissism from different guys where it's kind of like a switch, whereas, oh, you did this to affect me. And I would be open about that verbally. And it would be oh, well, remember this time when you said this or did this? And I'm like, okay, so we're keeping score of those things. So when I realized that it was people out there doing that, I said, I need to take a step back because that's not what I'm used to. I'm used to people being able to have mature conversations about the things that are affecting us, whether it's a conversation or the actions, things like that. And so that is something that I am realizing that no matter the age, because I have tried to date older, it's a constant thing. Some people are not quite ready to face the things that they're dealing with. And a lot of times they try to love bomb you into a relationship or try to get you to a place where you're comfortable. So you overlook a lot of the flaws or a lot of those traumas that are hitting underneath. And I try to be very open about like, okay, let's talk about, some of the things that affected you in your last relationship. That's so important. Or let's talk about childhood traumas that you're not really aware affected you as a child that ended up carrying on with you into adulthood. Because we don't think about those things. I have childhood trauma as well. And I never really thought about that being a possibility until I went to therapy and my therapist pointed it out. And that's another thing. A lot of men don't seek therapy because they don't think they need it. And I think in a lot of cases, they would benefit by going because when you had so many failed relationships and there's a pattern of failed relationships, you like to blame the opposite sex as far as, oh, well, it's the females that's the problem. No, but you're attracting these type of women. Not only that, but there's some good women coming in your path and you're also hurting them too. So there's something going on with you that you need to fix. And it's the same thing with women as well. So I decided to take time for myself and just get back to myself.